Welcome back to the Pedal Dude YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about Earthquaker's disaster transport line. I have all 6 here for you. And we'll discuss what they are and what they do. In 2008, we started with the original 5 knob. We have a fast and slow switch for the modulation. This is only number 15. This looks like it was kind of an afterthought. It's nice to have. And that was where it all began. Then we moved on to the Disaster Transport Junior. We added a tone knob to control the brightness of the repeats. And then we went on to the bigger Ghost Disaster, which is a ghost echo after a Disaster Transport Junior. Then came the 6 knob Disaster Transport. We got modulation back with its foot switch, and we retained the tone knob for the brightness on the repeats. And then we got into the Granddaddy Disaster Transport Senior, which has your 6 knob Disaster Transport into what is essentially a Ghost Disaster with less control over the reverb. The reverb in this sounds a little more like the Levitation to me. Fantastic pedal. So many functions. Read the owner's manual if you buy one. This does so much. The unique thing about the Ghost Disaster and the Disaster Transport Senior that they use an analog bypass switch so you can have your trails or turn your trails off depending on how you switch the effects in and out. And the most recent Disaster Transport is the Para, which we're now seeing as the 5 knob reissue. We've added the bend and stretch switch. The stretch is more like the V1 original where it's really weird. And if you don't want to be weird, you can go back to bend and go back to more traditional modulation sounds. And your modulation speed, the fast on the new reissue goes faster than the old one ever did. So your slow and medium are really the equivalent to your slow and fast on your very early 5 knob Disaster Transports. Inside, we kind of see a quick evolution of Earthquaker here. We have the pots, they're not even mounted on the board. The board was taped to the enclosure, everything's mounted off board. Everything's even done with solid wire, not even stranded wire in this. It's so early. That was 2008. And then the Ghost Disaster in my collection was actually made before my Junior. And here we go into basically marrying 2 pedals with a special switching system to make them work together. And the Disaster Transport Junior is the smaller board in that. And here we have the Revision 3, which is a much more polished looking version. Then we have the Disaster Transport. We added the modulation back here. And the Senior is more a modern Earthquaker pedal. We don't have the soft switch with flexi switching yet, but we have all the jacks on the board. We have the series parallel switching. We have the time control via expression, the full 2 different delays with reverb and modulation. And then we have the recently released reissue 5 knob with the 2 switches, and everything's on the board except for the flexi switches, and everything's surface mount. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'd be happy to share whatever I know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.